Welcome to Whitetail Rendezvous Podcast. This is Bruce Hutchin, host and executive producer. Each week you will hear tips, techniques, strategies, and personal stories from some of the best and funniest whitetail hunters in North America. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you do, tell a friend on social media. If not, tell me and I'll make it better. Thanks for listening, folks. This is Whitetail Rendezvous, episode number 419. On today's episode, we're going to head to Ohio, meet up with Travis Williams and Travis Shire. And they're with Shedding Light Outdoors. And they're going to talk about some techniques that everybody thinks they know about, but they're going to tell you why they work. One such technique is adjusting the placement of your stand during the season. Hey, sit back, relax, enjoy the show. Hey, folks, welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. This is your host, Bruce Hutchin. And we're getting a couple of Travises on the show today. We got Trav Shire and Travis Williams. And they're with Shedding Light Outdoors. And what's Shedding the Outdoors all about? Well, it's about a couple of passionate hunters. It's about loving the Lord. And it's about a couple of average Joes. Actually, there's three of them, Joes out in Kansas. They're average Joes, known as the Joe staff. So, hey, guys, we're going to talk about adjusting to deer movement today. We're going to talk about setting realistic expectations. And finally, we're going to talk with Trav about traditional archery. So, guys, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having us, Bruce. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So let's start right off and talk about Shedding Light Outdoors and what's that all about and why you guys started.
Yeah, the three of us all went to college together. We met there, and Trav and I started hanging out, and we started shooting these parody videos. This was back, when was it, 2005? And so we did, we called it TNT Outdoors, and we did like squirrel hunting adventure and groundhog hunting safari. It was stupid, but we had a lot of fun with it, just kind of filming. And then whenever I moved down to this area, Trav came and filmed me one hunt. He's like, just let me actually film you for real, not a parody. And doe came out. She came in broadside at about 30 yards. He filmed it. I dropped her on the spot, hit a little high, but it worked. And it was our first actual kill. And so from that point on, we were hooked. And then Joey, meanwhile, he was out in Wisconsin and then moving to Kansas now. He had he called it the Christian Bow Hunter blog. And so we all got together 2 years ago, 2015, at Trav's wedding. And before the wedding, we got to talk and said, why don't we just combine forces here? And we thought of like a catchy name. We thought Shedding Light was pretty cool. And I knew a buddy that could do like logos and stuff like that. And so that's how it all started. Our mission was simply just to use our passion of hunting and our passion for Jesus and use hunting to share our faith with others. So it's really more of a ministry.
Now, what about this average Joe thing? What's that coming from?
Well, we don't claim to be experts there. We are learning every day of the woods to learn. We don't want to be a pro staff or an average Joe staff. So we don't want to be a claim to be an expert.
And one of our guys' names is Joe, Joey. So it just kind of made sense to call ourselves the Joe staff, just so right off the bat, whenever you hear us, we're learning. I think we're kind of the average guy that we watch a lot of videos. We read podcasts and we listen to your podcast. We try and learn things, and so we don't claim to have it all figured out. We're learning just like everybody else is.
Yeah, and you think about learning because whitetails will school us all the time, even in the woods that and hunted for a long time, they'll still school us. So let's talk a little about knowing deer movement and how you adapt to that.
Well, I remember several years ago, I was always nervous about picking the right tree. I felt pressure to be in the right tree. And there may be 100-yard patch of woods that deer are moving through, but you do not know exactly where. And I just want to encourage people to get in a tree, get in there, and observe with your own eyes where the deer are moving, and then move your stand according to what you see. I think that is one of the best ways I've capitalized on killing some deer. I think of a nice 8-point I killed. I was on a ridge, and I sat there all morning and watched deer cross in the valley. So that afternoon, I moved my stand into that valley, and the next morning, I shot a pretty nice 8-point at 10 yards. And I think there's a lot to learn from visualizing your movement for yourself and moving on it.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I had the same scenario last year. I set up and I was kind of hunting an edge, and I was looking toward this spot I hadn't hunted before. And these, I kept on seeing these buck screws, but they're about 50 yards away from me. So I thought I just need to move, 30 yards closer. So I found the tree. I was like, that's where I'm going to be next time I come in. And so I sat in that stand. We had two magical hunts where we had bucks were cruising. It was the middle of the rut. I had a nice 10 point come in, and I just shot right underneath of them, missed them. But I mean, I moving. I would have never had the shot had I been in that 30, 40 yards away where I originally set up. So I think don't be afraid to move. I think some guys are like this is the stand I've got to be in forever, and being able to adjust, even mid season, you can do it without disturbing the deer. That's the way to go.
And thanks for that. When you think about your hunting traditions and how you get started, let's just share, how you get started hunting.
Well, when I was younger, my dad and I went I could. And when I was 11 years old, I shot my first doe. Shot her with a shotgun, and with that adrenaline rush, I remember shaking so bad. And from that point on, I was absolutely hooked. And I ended up shooting my first buck with the shotgun. I was 15, and then when I was 17, I shot my first deer or doe, actually a button buck, I'm sorry, with a recurve. I appreciate what my dad did. He wouldn't let me use the crossbow compound until I accomplished the bow harvest with the recurve. And I shot it was only about 5 yards from my tree, and I shot it, and it was such a rewarding feeling. So,
I a little different in that I grew up where we were at in my hometown, little tiny, town on the state road. We did deer drives. And so growing up, the whole idea of like sitting and waiting on a deer was foreign to me because we had a bunch of guys that drove deer. That's all I knew how to do. And so I remember I started as soon as I could be old enough to get my hunter safety card. I was in the woods, and it took probably 4 or 5 years. And I just remember it was a deer drive. It was a buck on the run, and I just pulled up, and the Lord allowed me to somehow make a shot on this running deer, and it was a little 6 point. And bow hunting didn't come till later on. In college, I came home, and my dad had a crossbow, so I went up and got a feeder, and I we're allowed to in Ohio have corn, and so I shot a buck underneath the feeder. That kind of got the adrenaline going. But the big thing was whenever I got married, my dad gave me an old bear bow. I practiced with it like a lot. Had my first compound. I went down to my wife's grandparents' house, and I'll never forget this doe came in. She stood broadside. I made a good shot on her, and that was it. That hooked me. And so that was 2009. For the last 8 years, I've been really learning how to do compound. I still hunt guns, still do muzzleloader, but primarily using the compound.
What are some of the lessons learned that you guys had from your parents, from your dads, about hunting that stayed with you today? So, guys, share with me what is going on as far as lessons learned that you've taken forward from your parents or from other, uncles or other friends.
yeah. Well, I think I had hard work. I remember it seemed like there was never a tree too trying to put a stand in. He was if we found a tree in the right spot, he would make it work. And he'd get a tree that stands in that tree. And I think I appreciate that. He put a lot of time in hunting when I was younger, and I realized that in order to be successful, you have to spend the time in the woods. I think he also told me that it doesn't come easy, and you can't set your expectations for it to come easy, or it will disappoint you. So those are some things I learned from my father. But
I think with my dad, it's the camaraderie of a hunt. There's something fun about going off by yourself and hunting, but my dad always was. Went to the deer drives, and he would just joke and laugh. And then in the evenings, we'd get together with some guys after we had cut up deer, and we'd play cards and we'd laugh. I learned from my dad some hunting tips and things like that. But the main thing is, man, there's just something special about being able to go into the woods with somebody and just laugh, smile, and enjoy the experience. So Trav and I, that's a lot of times we like to film each other, but really we just like to laugh, joke, and just enjoy. He shot a doe last year, kind of hit her far back with his recurve. I drove up the next morning to be with him and just capture him. Whenever we found her, laying right where he thought she'd be was fantastic. So I think the camaraderie is probably one of the main things over there.
When you think about your hunting experience to date, what's one thing you'd like to share with the listeners that is important to you as far as archery hunter?
I think personally, I want to stress that realistic expectations is highly important. I feel like today we can get sucked into Facebook and social media and the professionals on TV, and especially for young hunters or folks just coming into hunting, and they think a 5-year-old buck or a big buck is the standard. That's what you got to go with to be a successful hunter. But I just want to stress that that's not how it works, because you want to cut your teeth on basically any legal animal helps you develop their skills to deal with under pressure, because there's a pressure that an emotional adrenaline that comes over you that's kind of hard to deal with when you first start hunting and experiencing that. And I think that you just want to kill a legal animal, and I think it's kind of like cutting your teeth. You don't want to start at the top. You want to start on soft food, and it really makes you appreciate it. Then when you eventually do get to the bigger animals, I think that that's something I've noticed.
I'd be along the same lines. I think make sure you practice, make sure you're ready, and you read and you learn as much as you can coming into hunting. But I would say for your listeners, for me, with the compound, I think like you got to go in. It's one thing, obviously, to put your practice in, but also to know what type of animal you're going after, and also know what kind of animal is in your woods. The longest time, I had like really high expectations. I'd see these guys on Facebook posting like these giant 170-inch deer. Well, that's great if you have a 170-inch deer in your woods, but if all you have, the highest thing that you got is a 130, 140, you're going to eat a lot of tag soup every year. So we each kind of in our group, Joey, out in Kansas, he has. What'd you say about the?
Oh yeah, out in Kansas, around here, I think deer come out with spots, but out there they come out with 160-inch antlers. I think they're born booming out there. I don't know.
No, he's got some giants on his camera, and he's still pretty Joey, he took last year, he kind of had a tough year to be a perfect play of that. And this year, he's like, he's gaining confidence. So his goal this year is to regain confidence. My goal this year, I killed some 8 points and some smaller bucks. I want to kill a mature buck that I'm happy to put on my wall. I've killed enough of like the smaller ones that I'm like, I want to hold out and I want to know that whenever he comes in, it's going to make me stand. Last year, I had that deer come in, and I was sitting there thinking about it, and I was thinking about it and looking at him and zooming in with my camera on his horns. I'm like, don't shoot him. If he doesn't make you stand up, don't shoot. And then Trav, has a little bit different standards than me, and that's okay.
I can't stand the face tag. It's not, I like to throw my tag. Honestly, I like 110 inches kind of my standard, and I think I grew up playing some pressure land, and I just realized it's tough. It's tough to kill a big deer every year, and so I really appreciate even 110-inch deer. Is kind of where my standard is now. But with the recurve, I'm actually hunting with the recurve now, and I've so far killed three deer with the recurve, no bucks. This year, I want to kill a buck with the recurve, and if it's a spike, by all means, I'm going to try to slip an arrow in it, because I want to get that experience. And there's just a predator instinct when you put tension on that string and you make a good shot. That feeling just totally fulfills me, and just gives me a good feeling. So.
I'm hoping it's like a pinpoint instead of a spike, but we'll still love each other no matter what he shoots. So it's all right.
It's all good. Like I tell people about elk hunting, they say, "Well, what about elk hunting in the West?" Blah blah blah. I said, "Any elk is a good elk. I don't care if it's a cow or a smelly. If it's got to be legal, okay." But
right.
Other than
Last year was
that,
my first elk hunt.
oh, where'd you go?
Went to southern Pagosa Springs, Colorado. It was fantastic. Didn't kill anything. I was looking.
That's steep country.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it was. This Ohio boy was not ready. I live in the hills of Ohio, southern Ohio, but there was no getting prepared for the wind, the air and all that. But no, it was fantastic. But yeah, I'm with you. I think I would have shot anything legal that came in front of my scope, but that opportunity never presented itself.
Yeah, did you go with a guide or outfitter?
No, I went just DIY. I went with some cousins who had been out to this area before, and had a lot of fun. And I was on some elk at one point, but it was just second season rifle. It was really hot, and so the elk weren't coming down, so you really had to go up and just learn. I would do a lot of things differently. I probably would go. I'd like to do a drop camp next time. I still like the idea of DIY, not having a guide. Guides are cool, but I just can't bring myself. I just like that idea of trying to figure it out and learn and eat a lot of tag soup that way, I'm sure. But it was exciting. We'll go back again, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, you'll have to off recording, we'll have to talk a little bit because I've lived out here a long time. So maybe I can
Yeah.
give you a couple pointers. That's for
Oh,
sure.
I'll take anything you give.
So let's go back. Let's go back, Travis, and talk about hunting mature deer, because if you killed a lot of small deer, similar stands, similar areas, what are you going to change up? Because if you haven't already seen mature deer, you aren't in the right place.
Well, for me, I've made a lot of rookie mistakes going in. So I've shot myself in the foot. I did not play the wind as much as I should have. A thing that we learned, and we should have learned this long ago, but Ohio, you can use corn bait pile, and so one of the things we'd do is we'd put out the corn, and then we'd set our stand, maybe 20 yards, but we never thought about how a mature buck would access that point. He's going to come in downwind. And so we always wonder, why is all these does and these spikes will come in, they'll come straight in. They don't even think about, danger. But a mature buck is alive for a reason. And so for a couple of years, I think I shot myself in the foot. I would also I would grunt, I would blind grunt, or I'd blind rattle, and do all these things that I saw on TV because I thought that's what you're supposed to do, never thinking of the approach of that buck. He's going to come in, and if downwind is I don't have a clear shot or it's thick or he's going to win me. So one thing is thinking about his approach. Number two for me is also caring about my scent. I've recently gotten more serious about it. Using the right stuff, putting the laundry detergent scent free, and then I got a crusher bag and all that stuff. But the third thing I think is, like we said before, thinking about those bucks know a lot of times where we're at. So changing the location and going into areas, pockets, trying to find those pockets where a mature buck is comfortable. And like last year, that was it for me. I found the spot that was going to be the best spot. And I mean, I saw deer after deer there. And then wouldn't you know it, the next door neighbor, he put in an 8-foot fence all the way around. These three guys put in a high fence all the way around their property. So that just changed for me. But so this year, my goal is just take inventory and try and see, dive into some spots I haven't been before.
Let's talk about that 8-foot fence.
Yeah.
So did they go high fencing? So they're paying people?
Yeah. No,
People are
these
paying.
guys, well, yeah, what? No, these are three guys that for themselves. They are not, to my knowledge, they're not leasing. They're not bringing people in. They just must have the money, and they put fenced in 180 acres. And so that is completely. I've just now started to understand this property, and so we're going to have to readjust. I mean, it's going to create some new funnels. We're kind of optimistic about it because those deer that are on our side, they're not going to go over there. So we kind of got them on our side of the on our side of the fence. We're going to use that to our advantage.
Are they going to release deer, or have they released deer?
Well, turkey hunting, we looked across the fence and there were deer with ear tags in their ear.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
they released deer.
them. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, so they got their own high fence operation, because typically 180 acres isn't enough to sustain a herd for three guys or grow a herd. It's just not going to happen. I mean, it could, but it's going to take a long time, and just depends, because when you put the fence up, you don't know what's there.
Right.
Yeah. So we are going to be getting used to the fence, but so are the deer. During turkey season, we were out and Trav left some stuff in a field, went back to the field, and there was a buck that was there, and he was running into the fence. And Trav videoed this deer. The last time he takes off running and ran right into a pipe and ended up killing the deer. He gets this all on camera.
He ran into the 8-foot fence and killed himself, which is really sad to see.
So I wonder why he was so motivated to get in that terrain.
Well, that fence has never been there before, and he didn't know how to get away from it. I don't know. I jumped those deer in a patch of woods, and there were 3 of them, and 2 of them followed the fence line on up. This guy was determined, young buck determined to get through the fence. So
it's not going to work.
Not going to work. No, it didn't work.
Yeah, and Ohio, everybody knows there's some big bucks, in Ohio. The hammer buck came from Ohio, in just monstrous deer. Now, in your area where you're at, do you have that class of deer?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so. We've got every farm I've ever put cameras on. There's at least 170-inch deer there. You might be there at 1 a.m., but you see them. I think that mature bucks, quality deer management is kind of picking up. I think the mentality, and a lot of people these days, which if you don't have this mentality, it's fine. I don't have it myself yet, but but they're passing younger bucks, and I've seen more mature deer than what I remember in the past. I think the caliber buck is here.
Yeah, I would know that there's a couple TV shows that come out and they hunt pretty much within a mile or two of where we're hunting at, primarily. So I think that is, that just tells me that there are plenty of, and we see the pictures posted like in the gas stations, and these guys they're on 170, 180 inch deer. There's a buddy of ours, not too far from here, that shot, I think it was like 185, 100, almost 190 inch deer. So I would say that those are the places where it's big acreage and people were able to kind of manage their farms. And there's some soybean cornfields around where these bucks, can have the habitat to get big. So yeah, we have them. It's just getting on them.
Now, how big is the area that you hunt? What's your acreage?
I have one farm with 70 acres, and actually, I killed a deer on a 5 acre 9 point on a 5 acre piece in 2013, and then
The farm that I hunt is got about 100 acres, and it's mostly alfalfa field and woods, so it's a pretty good property. And then we've also last year we got a dairy farm that we're able to hunt. It doesn't have a lot of woods, but the woods are really good there, and we're just now starting to learn it a little bit. What's I'm is Billy?
Joey's
3 or 4 small parcels, I think. I don't think they're huge. He put in a food plot out there, which we haven't done that here yet. We just don't have the area for it yet. But Joey's got some good spots out there.
Yeah, Kansas is hard to beat. It's all about getting in the right place, like anybody. It's just you just got to get in the right place. But hearing what you're saying about your land, it doesn't take a lot of land. You just have to be on a pinch point, a funnel,
Mm-hmm.
a saddle, where they're gonna travel through. And the whole secret is, I think you said it before, is setting up your stand and being adaptable. And
Yeah.
really, what I tell people or talk to people about is long distance scouting and not even hunting the area, until you see the
Yeah.
deer
Well,
that you
that's
want to
huge.
kill.
That,
Well,
that's
it
another
really
rookie
is.
mistake I made. Yeah, I did that a lot. First year, I just love hunting. September, I love to hunt, and so I'd go out my best stand. We have probably 7 or 8 stands on that 100 acre property. I would go out to the best one, the pinch point, and I would sit in it, and I'd sit in it, and I'd sit in it. And he was always telling me, I don't know that you should do that. And so last year, I stayed out a good bit, and that's whenever I had that real nice 10 point. I'll call him tight rack 10, came in right down the path. I had a shot at him, but I decided to let him go last year because I think this year I had an encounter with him just the other day, and he's a bigger deer, more mature. So yeah, I think not blowing your stands early on, waiting for the right time, right conditions. That's important.
Yeah, and the way to do is you get in there with your truck and cover as much area, or you set up scouting stands, not in the optimum
Yeah.
place, but where you can just check them. That goes back to adjust your stand, because really, if you think about it, would you hunt all season for one shot at a mature deer? Forget the points, just the mature deer
Yeah.
that gets your heart going. Would you do that? And if you had one set, knowing that, okay, this year this is how I'm going to do it. As soon as I can pattern this deer, I'm going to go in and I might sit that stand one day or day and a half, because these big bucks know that you're there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that's
Yeah.
why if you want to talk to lots and lots of people, as I have on the show, is they say, the first 2 or 3 sits are the best time to shoot a deer out of your stand, period.
Yeah.
And I'm guilty of it. I'm guilty of, like everybody else. I've got favorite stands that killed a lot of deer out of, and I just hammer that stand when I shouldn't.
It's important to have a couple extra properties too. For us, we have a couple spots like that dairy farm. We were able to hunt it. Like it kind of scratches the itch a little bit in early season. Not that you can't get an early season kill, but it keeps you out of. We actually have another spot that we're able to hunt this year that's adjacent to the 100 acres. Just got permission to hunt it. It's about 40 acres, and I don't think it's going to mess with stuff. So you have a couple of those places where you can go in early season, pre-rut, before they're really moving a lot, and you don't mess everything up too.
There's a particular place on that 70 acres. It's a patch of woods, kind of isolated pond. But anyhow, we've killed. I have another friend. We've killed in the last, I think, 6 years, 420 inch or better bucks there. And there's these big scrapes in there, and you can put a camera there October 1st, and you will not see a deer at that scrape until October 29th, probably. And we've hunted that area in October, not seen a buck. And you go in there in November, and it's just crawling with bucks. So I think hunting a property multiple years really helps you learn it. And I think we've got to the point now we don't even go in that area until the calendar says November. And saves us a lot of time that we don't have to be in there and not see anything.
That makes sense to me. Now let's talk about, traditional archery. You'd said that, you feel like a predator. Let's talk about how you started off. Your dad had you shoot your first deer with a recurve, then you went to a compound and such. But what's important to you, and what's some of the tips you want to share with the listeners about, um, you know, not going backwards, but changing it up and leaving the compound at home and going up close and personal?
Yeah, well, I tell you what, I actually grew up shooting a recurve 87, and I've shot, I don't know, probably, I don't know, 8 or 10 groundhogs with it. And then that, of course, my first year was with the recurve, and or first year with the bows with the recurve. I hunted with the compound for several years, and in 2014, I was sitting in a stand and I killed 2 does within 5 minutes with that compound, and I smoked them. They went 50 yards and fell over. And that morning, I kind of had the feeling of it almost being too easy. I was kind of like, wow, is there not more to this? And so that kind of got me the recurve itch again. So 2 years ago, I picked up a recurve, started practicing with it, and last year I was able to harvest two mature does with it. And I actually got my compound out the other day, and I looked through the peep sight, and it just feels busy when you're looking through that peep sight. It's kind of busy, and I just like the open, natural feeling and of looking at a spot and the arrow just magically goes there. I mean, basically, people might think it's something special, but if you have the mental and the physical coordination to throw a baseball or a football or a frisbee, any of those same that's the same kind of muscles and the mental capacity you need to shoot a recurve bow. So it's nothing really, no rocket science behind it. Practices a lot.
Dude, every time I would call, I'm like, what are you doing? Shoot my recurve. What are you doing? Shoot my recurve.
5 days a week. And
we went last year, we went frog gigging, and he used his recurve and was shooting frogs with the recurve. Like, that's how much this dude practiced. So.
I love it. It's kind of addicting. But one thing I learned, I did not practice from a tree stand last year. And there was a morning I was up. My torso was probably pushing 30 feet. This platform was about 25 feet. And I had deer within 10 yards of me. 4 different deer I shot right over their back. I'm talking just a couple inches over their back. Left and right's perfect, right over their back. And 4 of them. And that's not easy to do, by the way, because I don't know how, it's kind of an elite group. I put myself in I call it the 4x9 group because missed 4 deer by 9 o'clock. But I got to thinking and practicing and researching a little bit, and that arrow goes high. At that steep of an angle and that close, it's going to go high. So I've been practicing from a tree stand this year. I got one hung in my backyard, and I'm optimistic that I'm going to be able to correct that hopefully this year. So that's one thing that was very educational last year. Well, with compounds, 60, 70 pounds is not uncommon, but my recurve is 45 pounds, and I've shot through deer with it. 40, 45 pounds, if you're starting out, that's all you need, because you'll develop bad habits if you get too much weight. So that's just something to think about if you're ever thinking about getting into it. But I don't know. I'm just really, really passionate, and I'm to the point where I would rather eat my tag and hunt with a recurve every day than hunt with a compound and fill that tag. So it's just I don't know how to describe it. It's such a fulfilling feeling to be able to do that, and God's blessed me with the ability to do that. And I'm thankful for it. So.
Have you guys members of Pope and Young?
I've got 2 deer that would qualify, but I've not registered them. So no.
Are you members though? You should be members.
Oh no, huh? No, I like.
I mean, it costs nothing. I mean, it's
really
crazy. Well,
actually, we should look into that.
Yeah, Jim Willems has been on the show twice, and he's quite a guy. I mean, he's traveled around the world hunting, and I think of I was just reading the recent. I don't know how recent it is, but a copy of Pope and Young and Fair Chase, and I just read the stories of one guy, Marv Klinke, out here in Colorado. He's just famous. I mean, the guy's unbelievable. He shot everything that he's ever killed with a traditional bow, everything, and that's sheep. I mean, he's killed a lot of stuff, really a lot of stuff, and some great stories that I've heard from him about stalking and getting up close and personal. But Jim Willems, who is the president, had a good piece about how all archers, and I'm giving a little shout out for Pope and Young because I think it's important that all archers need to be a member, because we're quote unquote a dying breed, if you will, in actuality, because we're not recruiting enough young kids. So think about that. In Pope and
Okay.
Young,
Yeah, we will.
I think it's $25. I mean, it doesn't cost that much, but the benefits of just supporting our sport are huge. So there's my soapbox. There's the shout out
All
to
right.
Pope and Young.
One other thing, well, I appreciate that. We will look into that for sure. One other thing I just crossed my mind with the recurve is my stand height and what tree I get in. I would rather be in the 10 to 15-foot range with a lot of branches on a tree that's only 5 or 6 inches in diameter, rather than a tree that's 18, 20 inches in diameter and like a telephone pole, because just being close to the ground makes that angle less dramatic. Also, a lot of guys say 20 yards for recurve. I'm actually limiting myself to 15. I want that shot to be a slam dunk before I even put tension on the string. I want to have no doubt in my mind that arrow is going to go through the lungs, or I don't even put tension on the string. So
We have a deal worked out where I'll film him recurve hunting. Last year opening day, I was like, I'm filming you, man, but I'm taking my bow, and if it's 30 yards where I know you won't shoot it, I was like, then you film me, and he's like, all right, that's fine. So last year we had this ravine in front of us, a field out to our left, and there's a path that was leading right down to an open shot for him, and these three does came right down the path, and instead of coming down to us, they bailed into the ravine. And I had already arranged by it was 30 yards, so I was like, Trav, I'm going to take this one, the last one. He's like, do it. So I stood up and I accidentally bumped my camera, so I didn't get the shot on camera. I was so mad at myself, but I'd also spent a lot. I practiced from a stand because I kept on hitting deer high. So even with your compound, getting up in there and practicing, I practiced that shot so much last summer. It was double lung. She went 40 yards and crashed. So if you got a recurve, buddy, go out with him and then work out a deal where wherever his range ends, that's where yours begins. And you can work out a deal.
Then you have to shoot them before they get close enough.
That's funny. That that's really good. I like how I like how that came. When you think about it, you know, young people. We just talked about a little bit about the importance of recruitment. What's your thoughts? I know Travis, your family ministry pastor there. There's going to be a lot of kids there. So how do you share about hunting to the kids that you come in contact with?
Get them into the woods if they have any interest at all. I just one of the students that was kind of coming, he was coming back to church some. His parents weren't there initially. He started coming back, and I said, "Hey, you like to hunt?" He's like, "Yes." So I took him back home with me to the deer drive, and he killed a buck and he killed a doe, during the deer drive thing. So that was getting him in, and then he and we started bow hunting the next year. And so I think just taking kids, like, you've got to be self. Like, I want to kill a buck and I want to put it on the wall. But which is more important, doing that or taking a kid with me? And but potentially during that hunt, I might be, giving up that opportunity to shoot that buck. But I'll do that any day. We took out some boys. We've taken out some other people turkey hunting, and it takes him into. Yeah, I got his first bird. Took a boy out, Riley. I got it on film. We had these Jakes come in and he shot one, and just that to me. I think that feeling of helping a kid get their first animal and being able to join them on the hunt, it's just that's where it's at. You get them into the woods and get them that experience. That's what it's all about.
Once they experience that, they have that adrenaline rush come over them, that fulfilling feeling, they're hooked. Then they want more. And so getting them that first experience and first and second experience, that really is cool. And I think another thing, I've got multiple bows. A lot of archers have multiple bows. If you do, you have a youngster that's interested. Of course, they probably won't be able to purchase their own equipment, but let them borrow a bow for a season. Take it over to them in June or July, get them set up, and then let them borrow it. I think that's a good thing too.
Yeah, one of the boys, that shot the turkey, Riley. We right now is my hometown's homecoming, and they have a booth downtown where you can set up a booth and people come by. One of the boys he's like, "Can I join your booth?" The boys up there, well, yeah. So last night we were talking to people. We had our booth set up, and Riley's right there with us, just chatting along. And he's pumped because he made our highlight. We made a 2017 highlight video, put it on YouTube, and we're showing it to everybody at homecoming, and he's on the highlight video. So that kind of stuff. It's just anytime as you just got to learn to be selfless. If all you care about is you going out and being solo hunter and big bucks on the wall, that's fine. That's what you want to do. But I find it more fulfilling to take some of these young guys out and really, mentor them. That's part of the Christian life, is being a discipler, making disciples. So while I'm out there, we're not just talking about hunting, we're talking about life. So that's a good thing.
I like that. One thing when you were talking about, hunting from stands, have you ever hunted out of just the ground with your recurve? Have you ever thought about that?
I have, yeah. I do. I'm afraid of the movement. I have not found the perfect location. I've only hunted a couple of times on the ground, haven't been successful, but I really like the idea of hunting on the ground because you don't have the noise of playing in your stand. You can just sneak in there and plop down, and it'd be really in your face type stuff.
He asked me, he sent me a text earlier, like about a month ago, said, "Hey, should I hunt from the ground this year?" And I was like, "Dude, you do whatever you want, but I can't. I just can't." I love the feeling of being 25 feet up, 20, 25 feet up, and that deer, even if it's a little spike, just walking underneath your stand and he's looking around, and he doesn't have a clue you're there. That to me is so enjoyable. I just love that aspect of hunting. So hunting on the ground, I also like to be able to see. Like I'm a person. I'm not the most disciplined, so sometimes I move and I move around. I like that freedom of being up, 25 feet and look around and see them come in. And also for video's sake, we are trying to video our hunts. It's really hard to video from the ground.
Yeah, I would definitely say on the video part, but on the hunting part, you get yourself a ghillie suit, and you'd be surprised. Deer will come right by you. I mean, literally.
Really?
I mean, we're talking feet, forget yards. I mean, I've had deer on the ground, didn't shoot them, but I mean, they're just coming down this trail and they're oblivious that I'm there, and I'm not that good
That's
of a
awesome.
hunter. No, I'm not that good of a hunter. But one, a lot of deer. Two, I was on the right trail and they were going someplace. I mean, in the first buck I ever shot, I wasn't on the ground, but I wasn't 10 feet up a tree, and he literally walked underneath me. And it's just
That's awesome.
I did shoot a 135-inch 9-point from the ground, but it was small, so. But that buck was rattled him, man. He was mad. I think he saw us, but he was either coming to run us off, or I think checking if we were a doe. He didn't care. I don't think he even realized humans existed. He was so jacked up. He came right in. But
Well, the thing is, in the versatility and being adaptive, and sitting on a ridge or sitting across from a ridge, however you want to say it, and spotting those deer, then you can slip in. There's no sound, there's no anything.
Yeah.
You got to play the wind. I mean, scent control is huge, but you can, once you play the wind, you pick the right tree, put your back against it. They'll never see you draw. I mean, they'll come right by, and it's different mentality. But especially with a recurve, because you're talking 10-yard shots.
Yeah, that's what I like, slam dunk shots. And I'm going to try to get a turkey this spring. I'm going to definitely hunt from the ground that way this coming spring. So try to get a turkey with the recurve. See how that goes.
That's a little harder because they got better eyes than deer. And
yeah, that's
there's more than one. Yeah, there's usually more than one. Walking down the trail.
I might get actual ground blind to get in for that. I think
that's great. Well, guys, we're at the time of the show. Why don't you give some shout outs to friends, neighbors, and all the rest, and then we'll call it a show.
All right. Well, we just want to thank everybody that supports us, and as many of you guys know that do support us, we are selling some T-shirts to help our ministry. So whenever we go to homecoming, it's like $100 to set up a booth and get shirts and things like that. So if you go to sheddinlightod.com or go to our Facebook page or Instagram, you can find a link to support us. And we got all different kinds of collars, green, blue, and all that with their logo on it.
We got hats.
Yeah. We just got some hats that we're selling for $20. So that's our little plug there. But really, we appreciate the people that support. We really want this. We don't care if we ever make it on TV. That's not our goal. Our goal, we call it shedding the light. We want to shed the light of the gospel and tell people, hey, hunting is awesome, but your relationship with the Lord, that's it. If you don't have that, you can kill the biggest buck of your life, 200-inch buck, have them on the wall. But at the end of your life, whenever you pass away, where are you headed? Do you know where you're going? Do you know what the point of your life is? And so we just like to encourage people and tell them, hey, it's awesome to be in the woods and love that, but it's better to have that relationship with the Lord, and that's what we want to encourage people to do.
Yeah, like say on Facebook, is it Shedding Light Outdoors?
Yeah, I think it's Shedding Light Out. Just look up Shedding Light Outdoors. I think we're the only one.
How about on Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram on there too, Shedding Light Outdoors.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Shedding Light Outdoors or Shedding Light OD. Either one of those will help you find us.
All right. So
we're on YouTube as well.
YouTube Shedding Light Outdoors?
Yep.
All right. Well, on behalf of Whitetail Rendezvous, this has been really fun and sitting and chit chatting with you guys, and we shared some big buck nuggets, as I say, and tips and techniques, and found out a little bit more about shedding light outdoors. So thanks, guys, for being on the show.
And
Thank
thanks,
you.
Bruce.
Appreciate it.
Hey, up next, we're heading to central Nebraska, and we're going to connect with Jason Obermiller. Now, Jason is a teacher. In fact, he's got a master's in biology. But more important than that, he loved chasing whitetails. And he and a partner, Eric, started a company called Rackology. Now, Rackology is an attractant and minerals all in one bag. And Jason is going to talk about the importance of feeding deer, supplementing deer during the prime growing season. And it might surprise you when that growing season is for bucks. It might not be what you think. And so stay tuned, enjoy the show. And Jason at Rackology has got a great story to tell.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.